Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing exceptionally well today. We're going to be doing some more video game design reading. Unfortunately, my camera died yesterday, so really sorry about that. We had just finished up the last few bits on learning ethical game design, and I was learning a bit more about cultural appropriation versus cultural appreciation. It was just a bit more on like no stereotypes, respectful and accurate, and then keeping up on industry news with some different websites to use. Now the time is 9:51. It is the 20th of January. Let's set a 20-minute timer so that we can do this and then head off to bed. Here we go. 20-minute timer has been set. We'll pop that over to the side. Let's get into now Chapter 3. I don't even remember going through Chapter 2. So let's see what Chapter 2 was, because I don't remember. I remember introducing the art of game design, which was Chapter 1. I don't remember when we entered Chapter 2. So I'm just going to have a little look for that. Knowing why game design matters. Yes, okay, this I remember. A leaderboard here, some achievements there, maybe a point system thrown in for good measure. Yep, I do remember it. I just wanted to check that I hadn't missed the page for whatever reason. Let's continue with, in this chapter, reviewing the phases of game design, being intentional about design, aligning a team around a core vision, managing the scope of your game, overviewing the game design process. So, I break up a game's development into phases because each stage comes with its own unique tasks and priorities. This is a common way to segment the work in the game industry. Pardon me. Thinking of development this way helps you plan ahead. What do you want your game to look like at each stage? How many players do you need to test it to get actionable feedback? By answering these questions, you'll have a clearer roadmap to guide your project. And this chapter helps you to start building that roadmap. Additionally, this chapter covers two other important aspects of video game design: setting and holding yourself to an intention, and managing scope. So setting an intention and managing scope. Cool. Doing both well can help you navigate the journey from an idea to finished game. Exploring the phases of game design. I start with an overview of the typical phases in game design, in which each phase has its own goals, challenges, and creative opportunities. I go into a lot more detail about the specific tasks you'll want to complete in each phase of a game's development in Chapter 14, which I think we have been over, but let me just double check what the named chapter of Chapter 14 is. The named chapter of Chapter 14 is Following a Step-by-Step Game Design Process, Designing from Concept to Launch, Acquiring the Skills Needed to Launch, Accepting the Final Release versus what you envisioned, etc. Cool. And so that was Following a Step-by-Step Guide to the Game Design Process. Got it. Okay, let me just find my page again. Here it is. But for now, you can get a general sense of what to expect in each phase and which design artifacts you'll want to get out of each. Think of design artifacts as the building blocks of your game. The documents, prototypes, and tools you create to guide development. Examples include concept art, sketch, pardon me, my goodness, sorry, I ate not too long ago. Sketches or illustrations that define the game's style, characters, and environments. You create these in pre-production to nail down the visual direction before making assets. Storyboards, a series of images that map out gameplay, cutscenes, or UI interactions. These are super useful in pre-production to plan the player experience before building something. Prototypes, early rough versions of mechanics or game ideas to test if they're fun before committing. You make these in pre-production and production to experiment and refine gameplay. And prototyping has been a word that's come up quite a lot, and with some of the stuff that I've learned from like Warframe, the Digital Extremes game developers, is that I've heard them mention prototyping as a thing. Like whenever they're looking to make something new, they need to they prototype it, which now makes sense to me. Is they're trying to make a an understandable articulation of what they're trying to do before they add, custom elements to it, which is very cool. I think that I can imagine in game design that prototyping is maybe the thing that a good game developer can do, is the ability to take the concept, the idea, and create a rough version of it. I feel like that's almost not the defining characteristic of what is if you had to give a game designer a skill set. I think that prototyping is probably the most introductory version of that skill set, and then obviously you have more specialists who will handle integration, shaders, features, all those kinds of, and then the finishing of the product. But I think that if you have people who are good at prototyping, then I feel like you can fail fast, and that allows you to learn quickly, which is a very good thing from business perspective. From a business perspective. Mechanics flowcharts. Diagrams that show how different game systems work together. These are handy in pre-production and production, making sure everything works together. Playtesting reports. Notes from players trying out your game, helping you spot issues and improve things. You collect these throughout production and post-production to fine-tune the experience. Remember, the following sections highlight the path my dev journey generally takes. Every game dev's journey looks a little different, so don't stress if your process isn't exactly like this. The goal is to keep moving forward and to have fun along the way. Concepting. Everyone's favorite phase. I can agree with this. Concepting. It's where it all begins. You're dreaming up your game's big idea, and I'm talking in a general sense, just concepting anything is fun to everyone, I would imagine. Sketching mechanics and figuring out what makes it fun and unique. This is one of the most fun steps of the process. You get to brainstorm, doodle, and get excited about your vision. You also start to think about your audience and checking out similar games to see what works and what doesn't. Your main goal in this phase should be to nail down the core idea of your game. What are the core actions the player's doing? Are they exploring, battling enemies, or trying to find a boss to battle? The design artifacts you'll want to create are these. A high-level concept document that summarizes the game. This can be the start of your game design document, GDD, which is used to document all the design aspects of your game. This is an important document because it helps you organize your thoughts and keep track of your design decisions. Mood boards to set the scene for the experience and help you with references and art direction. Chapter 9 covers developing your own art style. This is going to be a really interesting one because, being an artist, I always think is a separate career path, but I'm glad to see that it isn't. Developing an art style in games, defining art style, choosing tools and software for art style development, exploring elements of art style, considering scope when choosing an art style, ethical and cultural considerations. I like that there's an ethical and cultural consideration in that one. That's cool. That's cool. I like it when those things are woven into chapters rather than being their own chapter. Moving on. A definition of the target audience, who's playing your game, what genres of game do they like, and what are their motivations for playing. See Chapter 10, in which I discuss the understanding of your audience and what kind of game they want, and what kind of experience they want from the game, not what kind of game they want to experience. That is not what it says. And Chapter 10 says, okay, this is the user experience, who will play your game, designing for players, and designing interfaces. Okay, cool. Pre-production is the next phase after concepting. This is where you turn your ideas into something real. This means figuring out your core gameplay loop, choosing tools and tech, making concept art, building prototypes to see what sticks, and also the phase where you plan out your schedule, budget, and testing strategy, because you'll need it sooner than you think. Chapter 5 covers how to choose. Chapter 5 covers how to choose your tools for game design. And Chapter 13 covers your game design covers turning your game design concept into reality. What is Chapter 5? Chapter 5 is Part 2, exploring game design elements, and it's game design tools, project management. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, and understanding project management. Cool. The design artifacts you'll want to create in pre-production are a game design document, so GDD, same thing they mentioned earlier, which was the document used to the document used to categorize or catalog all the design aspects of your game. Got it. Early prototypes to figure out which ideas work and which aren't as fun as how you imagine them. A production timeline. Even though it's rough, deadlines are good and helpful motivators. Production. This is where you start implementing your plans. You start building the game, designing levels, making assets, and fixing bugs. Testing is important here to make sure things work. And you'll probably go through stages like alpha, beta, and even a soft launch to polish things up before launch day. There's a lot to get done in production and a lot of momentum to keep up. Chapter 15 covers how to keep that momentum up and finish your game. The design artifacts you'll want to create are fully playable prototypes and production-ready code, polished assets that make quite a few and that may take quite a few iterations. So polished assets that may take quite a few iterations, an up-to-date GDD, so you can keep track of your ideas, content, and systems. The game design document. Cool. Good to know that people do have a game design document. I'm not sure why they wouldn't, but that's good to know. Launch. The big day is here. Your game goes live and it's all hands on deck. The stage about promoting your game, getting early reviews, and making sure the game is uploaded and reviewed for distribution. See, I'd actually disagree with that. I think now more than anything that promoting your game happens before launch more than on launch, in my opinion, or even post-launch. But I suppose it's all just saying part of the launch experience, but there we are. You only have one launch, so make as big a splash as you can. There is room to improve from there and grow your audience over time. Depending on the size of the project, you may want to break up your release with smaller regional launches or soft launches, which I cover in Chapter 14. Oh, pardon me. You may be testing, soft launches, shown in Chapter 14, to test different aspects of your game. You may be testing monetization, features, or stability in different markets, and then doing a full launch later. The design artifacts you'll want to create are marketing materials for the storefront and social media, gameplay trailers so players know what to expect, a post-launch support plan. Even in a rough state, it helps to know when you expect to update and how often so that you can understand how much attention your game will need after launch. We didn't expect to make many updates post-launch on Chief Emoji Officer, but we made quite a few in the first couple months and then one a year later. Chapter 16 is about preparing for launch day and marketing your game. Chapter 17 covers various publishing options, another way to say launching your game, self-publishing versus launching on an established platform like Steam or itch.io. I honestly think that Steam is just the way to go now for the future. It is just the place that I think most PC gamers go to find their games, if they can. Post-production. So now you've launched, but it's not over yet. Now a lot of your effort goes into marketing your game, connecting with your audience, and making updates. Focus on getting reviews and responding to them, making patches and writing patch notes, and getting feedback from your community. Tip: make sure to respond to reviews. How engaged a developer is with their players is a consideration. Oh, my mic is getting low. I've just seen that. Is a consideration in the featuring process on mobile app stores. The more responsive you are, the better the chances you'll have of getting featured by Apple or Google. See Chapter 16 for more about building a community and marketing your game. Give me a second, guys. I'm just going to go and grab my charger so that we can and keep this alive for another 6 minutes. Got it. Got it. Okay. Here we are. I'm going to use my portable charger because it'll be able to stay close to my body. Sorry for the disturbance. Let's just do that.
We are probably still connected. I would hope. Cool, I'm just gonna pretend as though we are. Hopefully we are. Okay, it looks like the transmitter is disconnected.
Okay, it's got about 10% left. I will recharge it by the time tomorrow comes. Sorry about that, guys. We will go for as long as we can until this dies out. So let's resume. We have 6 minutes on the clock, and we'll see how much, or 6 minutes and 38 seconds. We'll see how long that ends up lasting for. Again, apologies when this ends up cutting out. So that's post-production. Setting design intentions. Design can encompass a lot of things. The visual design of a game, the way the information is organized, the composition of all the elements, or the theming. Why did I say theming? Theming. Theming of the game. But at the end of the day, design is really about the intention behind your work. So even if you're prototyping and trying out new things to see what works, take a step back after you land on some things you like and set your intentions for your path forward. When you're deep in the creative process, it's easy to get caught up in experimenting and chasing new ideas, which is great, but at some point, taking the moment to reflect on what you're making and on why you're making what you're making but at some point, taking a moment to reflect on why you're making what you're making can make a big difference as to whether you finish a game and whether that game is what you envisioned from the outset. Creating intention in your journey. Think about what excites you in your work, what feels right, what's standing out. When you spot those things, set an intention around them. It doesn't have to be anything complicated, just a simple focus on what you want to build or communicate. Intentionality adds meaning to the creative chaos. And I believe intentionality is just acting with like a degree of certainty, but I'm just gonna make some verifications here. Intentionality. Using anything that isn't AI. Fuck AI. Let's see. Encyclopedia of Philosophy, sure, why not? So, intentionality, 1% left. This is about to die out, so I apologize. Intentionality is the mind's capacity to direct itself on things. Mental states, thoughts, beliefs, desires, hopes. Exhibit intentionality in a sense they're always directed on or at. So it's if you have a desire, acting on that desire is intentional. So that would exhibit intentionality in your actions. Got it. Sorry, you guys are going to lose audio soon. I apologize. Maybe, I don't know if there's a different... I think this might have
in integrated audio, so we'll see. So intentionality adds meaning to the creative chaos. It lets you take all those cool ideas floating around and turn them into something that feels whole and cohesive. I'm going to make a small tangent into yoga for a second because it seeped into my creative practice. I'd already been taking classes here and there, but a handful of years into my career, I started to take yoga more seriously. At first, it was a way to move and de-stress, but the more I practiced, the more it helped my mental state and focus. Yoga isn't just a practice for flexibility or strength. It's about presence. It's about presence. The presence. I'm saying that right. It is presence, not persistence or some other word. The presence is about connecting your mind and body and being intentional in your actions and thoughts. I found this same principle applied to my creative work. Instead of rushing into projects or getting caught up in distractions, I started making space to slow down, reflect, and set an intention before I dive into designing, writing, or problem solving. I asked myself a few key questions to center my focus. What are my core values? What purpose does this have? Should players feel something, or am I making something more utilitarian? We are going to look up what utilitarian means. Utilitarian. Let's go for the Cambridge Dictionary. Designed to be useful rather than decorative. So if you're thinking, what purpose does this have? Am I making something more utilitarian? It's like, are you making something with the express purpose of performing a function rather than like making something that is inspired, I suppose, or more creative? What goals am I pursuing with this project? Am I learning a new game engine, or do I plan to monetize the game? What will this project look like when it's finished? With the answers to these questions, you can then create the following artifacts to help you begin to realize the vision for your game. Razor statements. Craft a single line that defines the essence of your game. It should be short, impactful, and highlight what makes your game stand out. I talk more about these statements in chapter 13, which is all about concepting your game idea. That I think is going to be really interesting, because I think about razor statements, and the ones that come to me are like ninjas play free. I think that's a razor statement from Warframe. I think that Become Legend is a razor statement potentially from the Destiny series. I'm trying to think if there are any others that particularly come to mind for me. I mean, that's probably not what it is. I imagine that it's more like ninjas in space fighting what would be Warframe, or resurrected humans, resurrected people guided by orb fight darkness would be the one for like the Destiny. But I think it's a really interesting concept to think about razor statements. I think that's a really good concept in general, is taking the complexity of your idea and just diluting it down to an experience. I think that's a really cool thing. I like that. I like razor statements. Design pillars. Break down the main ideas that shape the... Okay, that's time. We're going to now read just down to the bottom here. Finish all these statements here. Design pillars. Break down the main ideas that shape the player's experience. These should be simple but flexible enough to guide every aspect of development. See chapter 13 for more. Experience storyboards. Map out how players will experience your game from start to finish. These can help visualize key moments, player progression, and emotional beats. Chapter 10 covers storyboards. Style guides. Define the look and feel of your game. A good style guide ensures consistency in visuals, tone, and overall aesthetics, keeping everyone on the same page. This may be part of the GDD, but are more focused on the details of the content. So these may be a part of the GDD, but are more focused on the details of the content, like the art or writing style. I have more on style guides, specifically art styles, in chapter 9, as we've been over before. Mood boards. Collect images, colors, and references to capture the vibe of your game. Mood boards help establish a visual tone and inspire design decisions. Personas. Create profiles of your target players, outlining their interests, motivations, and playstyles. Prototypes. Build quick, rough versions of core mechanics or systems. Prototypes let you test ideas early, fail fast, and iterate before committing to full development. Core gameplay charts. Map out the main loop of actions that players will repeat. Interaction diagrams. Visualize how different systems interact with each other. This can prevent feature creep and highlight dependencies early. Cool. Awesome. And that is what we'll leave it up for today. Thank you all so much for watching. Again, this entire thing is inspired by Kai Cenat, so massive shout out to him. Stay well, stay safe, look after yourself, and have a wonderful evening. Good night.